Zozo Phenomenon. Recently, I have come to knowledge of what is known as the Zozo Phenomenon. To start, I must tell of what the Ouija board is. To those of you who don't know, it's a children's toy with letters spelled out across the board. A person or group can put their hands or fingers on the planchette and try to summon spirits. The spirit then moves the planchette around the board, spelling out sentences. Some claim it's each other doing the moving, which it often tends to be. Others claim it's their subconscious. Yet many believe it's actually spirits. I won't be getting into this, but if you want to research this, there's plenty of information out there. The Zozo Phenomenon is the fact that people from all over the world for the last 30 years, the time the board first became popular, have reported an entity named Zozo, Zoso, Zuzu, Zoo, Zo, and other Z-worded names like that. This creature often starts claiming it's another spirit, or trying to act friendly or nice. More often than not, Zozo quickly becomes violent, curses at you, and takes complete control of the board. For many, this is not the end of it, however. No matter how many boards they use, Zozo comes back, and soon it doesn't end with the board. Many report hauntings by Zozo, some claim possession, and others claim harassment. It often carries a very common theme, however. Zozo either pretends to be friendly for a while and slowly drains away from its host, or he is outright hostile, terrifying the poor souls unlucky enough to encounter him. Many have asked Zozo questions on his origins. On most occasions, after revealing himself as Zozo, he will not deny what he is. He will outright tell you he is a demon from hell, even once claiming to be Satan himself, although the last part was probably one of his many scare tactics. There is much evidence of ancient entities in Africa, medieval Europe, and Christianity for a demon named Zozo, which in English translates to the Destroyer. Zozo has even been known to curse off in Hebrew and quote Bible verses, and to react severely negatively to anything about God or Jesus Christ, even relinquishing his grip on his victims when being commanded in a Christian fashion. I do not know if this is common with other religions as well, and it doesn't always work for Christians as well. I am writing this as a warning to inform my fellow creepypasta readers that not everything is as it seems. If you happen to use one of these boards or an automatic writer, and something by the name of Zozo appears, leave the game properly and cleanse the house according to your religion or beliefs. Now, I'm aware that people are pretty divided on just how creepy Ouija-related experiences truly are. To be honest, given that every time I've ever tried to use a Ouija board, it was blatantly obvious that any messages were born entirely of human effort. My friends weren't exactly good at hiding their efforts to move the piece where they wanted it to go. I'm not particularly spooked by the boards. After all, it is largely marketed as a children's board game, and since all of my experiences using it were when I was a kid, for me, most of that association is hard to break. However, I've seen many people make the argument that it's not the vessel that matters, it's the intent and permission given by the users to any entities that's important. That may be true. After all, how many stories are there of seemingly innocuous items being possessed by ghosts and spirits? Many. So I'll leave each of you with your varying degrees of skepticism and belief and close out with some anecdotal evidence. A Zozo experience transcribed by Stephen Wagner. I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am currently 40 years old and have held a fascination with the occult since an early age. I have had many bizarre experiences with Ouija boards, and I am writing this as a warning to people that bad things can happen because of these portals. The majority of people from the United States hold a skeptical view regarding the scientific evidence of spirits or ghosts, and many people who believe in these things also believe that it is for this very reason that ghosts and poltergeists occur here and exist under the radar, so to speak. These Ouija boards are manufactured under the precept that they are mere toys. Let me tell you firsthand that they are not toys and should be used with strict caution and probably should not be messed with at all. Other countries take a more open-minded view of spirits, demons, and ghosts, and many, many cultures have based entire religions from these beliefs. During my experiences with Ouija boards, one particular spirit always seemed compelled to make its presence known. Its name is Zozo. Today, I refuse to even pronounce its name as I believe the mere pronunciation of it can cause it to manifest itself. Too many times to count, it has at first pretended to be a nice spirit, or pretended to be whoever I was trying to contact. But eventually, it showed its true self, cursing me, threatening me, and others present in the room. Once, it actually cussed me using what looked like Latin or Hebrew, and using biblical terminology. Nasty spirit. I was genuinely fascinated and startled by how many times it showed up, even in many different states and many different Ouija boards. It always wound up being very nasty and commented freely about how it wanted to possess my girlfriends and take them to paradise. When asked where paradise was, it spelled hell. One time, after it was being extremely evil, I walked into my bathroom only to see my 1-year-old daughter about to drown. Her mother had left her alone in the tub for just a second, and somehow the water got turned on and was overflowing. Instinctively, she had her face tilted up and was seconds from going under when I grabbed her from the water. The next day, she was hospitalized for some weird internal infection and was put into isolation for 14 days straight as doctors tried to diagnose her illness. We almost lost her, and that was when I began to suspect demonic attack. At the same time, my girlfriend maintained a trance-like state. Her personality changed from a very sweet person to withdrawn and uncaring. It had previously said that it was going to possess her and eat her soul. I was recording music for a future rock project, and I remember jokingly asking if it had an opinion on what I should name the band. It spelled Iron Tongue, which at the time I thought was pretty cool. Only later, when my daughter's tongue swelled up in the hospital to the point of asphyxiation, did I realize that this wasn't cool at all. Her tongue had become rock hard and distorted her face, swelling up to where it hung grotesquely from her mouth. We took turns bedside at the hospital for what seemed like forever before my daughter began to recover from this strange affliction. When guests would spend the night at her house, they would claim that they heard frightening voices coming from inside the walls. Objects would be thrown across the room and spiders seemed to come from nowhere. My girlfriend's brother, who lived with us, complained that he couldn't sleep at night because the conversations were so loud that he simply could not rest. He believed in ghosts, and though he wasn't afraid of them, he said that it definitely felt demonic. Lights would turn off and on by themselves, doors would open and unlock themselves. One night in our bedroom, a vicious laughter emanated from thin air, and to this day I cannot explain the terror in that laughter. Another night, I was awakened by what felt like hands on my throat, choking me. I could not breathe. I could not even scream. After about 30 seconds, it released its grip and I gasped for air. The same thing happened to my girlfriend the next night. Family curse. Yet another night, her brother and I were standing just outside the back porch sliding glass door talking about the supposed curse on her family. I abruptly exclaimed, "I rebuke this curse in the name of Jesus Christ," and no sooner finished saying those exact words when a deafening sound and vibration struck the entire house with such an alarming boom that the neighbors came over to ask if I heard anything strange. I knew it wasn't our imaginations. I got out the ladder to see what had landed on top of the house, only to find nothing. Things settled down after that, And to this day, I believe that whatever made that noise also caused the disturbance to go away. For a while, my girlfriend broke up with me, and I met someone online in Michigan, where I moved to be with her. She didn't believe in spirits, and although I knew better, I decided to make her a believer as well. The skull necklace. Living in a very small town in Marshall, Michigan, there were no stores that sold Ouija boards, so I downloaded one from the internet. I printed it out, and to my horror, Zozo had returned. It said it came from cyberspace, and when I asked it where it lived, it spelled skull necklace. We didn't think much of this until I asked again where it was, this time spelling mirror. There was only one mirror in the bedroom where we were crouched on the floor, and I heard a scream coming from my girlfriend's 7-year-old niece who was watching us with another young friend. We looked up at the mirror and saw the skull necklace swaying back and forth with glowing eyes looking down at us. My girlfriend's son had hung the necklace on one of the posts of the waterbed hours before I downloaded the paperboard. We almost jumped out of our skin, and although 3 feet of fresh snow had fallen that night, we all found ourselves in the front yard, not knowing what to do, scared and frozen in terror. My girlfriend was so fascinated, she drove 40 miles to purchase a new glow-in-the-dark Ouija board, much to my dismay. The next night, we had another session in the same room. Zozo immediately came forth, even without me being a participant. My girlfriend's nieces were using the same planchette, and I would secretly write down a color onto a small piece of paper, then crumple it up where no one could see. I asked the young girls to ask the board if it knew which color I had written down. It quickly scooted to yes, and then blue. I remember chills coursing up and down my spine as I threw the wadded-up paper to my girlfriend. Her eyes widened as she read the written color. Blue. We then tried the same thing with shapes and words, and every time the board knew. The photo apparition. One night we asked the board if the spirit would show itself. It spelled yes, and then told me to turn out the lights and take a picture of the necklace above the board. I did just that, and what turned out is eerie, to say the least. On the upper left-hand corner of the picture, we could plainly see winged skeletons flying about, and they are of the exact same weird shape of this skateboarder's skeleton necklace. Toward the middle, we could make out hideous faces. I have seen at least 4 evil faces in this picture. I have sent this picture to several experts, and they have all said they cannot explain the images inside. As if all of this wasn't strange enough, now comes the really scary parts. A few months ago, I Googled the word Zozo. To my shock, many other people have also been contacted by a demon of the same name. I read about 20 similar stories, and I am now convinced that this simply cannot be mere coincidence. Supposedly, Zozo is an ancient demon name, which possibly stands for the Destroyer. Claims of demonic possession are associated with this Zozo, and I feel it is my duty to warn people to steer clear from this if it happens to present itself during a Ouija board session. I am currently researching this phenomena for a future book, and I am in the initial stages of presenting my findings to a reputable demonologist who has been involved in hundreds of cases of paranormal activities across the world, including a haunting in Connecticut. Who or what is it? What is this Zozo? Supposedly, the 3-headed dog demon that guards the gates of hell has a tattoo on its forehead that spells Zozo. Also, Zozo is a term Aleister Crowley claimed meant 666. Jimmy Page of the rock group Led Zeppelin used Zozo as a symbol in the Zeppelin 4 album. Could Zozo and Zoso be connected somehow? How can so many different people from so many different parts of the world somehow lie about the spirit? And if they aren't lying, then how can we explain these visitations by this wicked entity? Is Zozo the devil himself? Or a wayward demon who has the power to manifest itself wherever and whenever it is called? Heed my warnings, people. If you are playing around with a Ouija board and you jokingly ask if it has a name and it spells Zozo, close the session properly, cleanse the house, and never, I repeat, never ask it again. And if you are brave enough to carry on conversations with the spirit, do not antagonize it or act on its directions. I know what I have seen, and I know other people have also come into contact with the spirit. It is dangerous beyond words. I realize not every session results in negativity, but when you play with Zozo, you are playing with fire. Everything I have described here is true, and I am not exaggerating one bit. It may take me years, but I do intend on writing a book about this, as I have many stories that I do not have time to mention here. They all stem from true events that took place while talking to this Zozo. Friends, I have been told by people wiser than myself that the spirit world is more real than this world of so-called reality. Ouija boards can cause many things to happen in your life. Maintain an open mind, and most of all, be careful.